forgot that no one is using it after me. Good? Yeah, good.
Yes, hi everybody, really nice to be here. My name is Anna Bohlin and these are my colleagues, Staffan Appelgren. We're both social anthropologists at the School of Global Studies in Gothenburg. And this is Lena Stammarnäs. She's an exhibition producer at the Museum of World Culture. And we will talk a bit about the SEED pilot that SEED project that we got money from the SEED Box project. So Lena will start.
Hello, I will have to glance at my computer, otherwise my English will be very, very strange. But yes, I work as an exhibition producer at the National Museums of World Culture in Gothenburg. And in February we opened an exhibition called Human Nature, and it's about the connection between consumption and the facts of mass extinction and climate change. And the Human Nature project has 3 parts. It's the big exhibition. We have a small mobile version that we call Human Nature Pop-Up, and it's a digital platform, a Human Nature School. And I will present the exhibition briefly to you shortly. The Pop-Up, it moves around in and outside the city to events on sustainability and shopping malls. The digital platform Human Nature School was produced with advice from teachers and aims to reach out nationally. But I will start by giving a background to this project. We had a thought since many years that objects from our collections could contribute with inspiration to different ways of relating to nature and our planet. We were inspired by materials, techniques, and how these objects were used, respected and reused in different parts of the world. We also were inspired by knowledge and practices from indigenous societies. I was assigned to make a pre-study to investigate in what ways and together with whom we could produce an exhibition on this theme. The pre-study pointed out possible themes, partners and target groups that we tested on in a workshop together with 12 researchers from different academic areas. The researchers reflected and discussed our suggestions and gave us important perspectives that we were lacking in-house at the museum. The pre-study then led to an assignment to produce an exhibition with the aim to create motivation for our visitors to a more sustainable consumption and highlight the beneficial values of a sustainable lifestyle could lead to. The target group were expressed as those already engaged, those uninterested, and those who denies climate change being caused by humans. Schools were another important target group. We decided to focus on consumption in relation to Goal 12 in Agenda 2030, as this is a goal that we doesn't reach so well in Sweden. The content in the exhibition is based on objects from the museum's collection, as well as ongoing research programs with strong connection to consumption. Tied to the project team were also a reference group and 2 focus groups that was representing the target groups. The exhibition should both address the threats that humanity is facing, but also give hope that we can solve problems and that we can change destructive habits and behaviors. Slide 2, please. Slide 2, I mean. The exhibition. The Human Nature exhibition will be open at the Museum of World Culture in Gothenburg until May 2020, and then it will move on to the Museum of Ethnography in Stockholm, where it will be shown until January 2022. Our starting point was inspired by the American biologist and history professor Donna Haraway, in that everything is connected. We are all part of economical as well as ecological structures and patterns. and of systems that are constantly urging us to consume more. We use the string figure as a symbol here. The exhibition contains of two parts that are very different from each other. The first part, the introduction, is a kind of a shopping mall where mass consumption is in focus. Absurd products are being sold out by absurd commercials. And behind the cracking walls, the visitor gets a glimpse of the impacts. In the end of the mall, where the facade is cracking down, there is a historical flashback of how we ended up here in society, where mass consumption has become a time-consuming activity as well as a big part of our identities. The big room, in contrast, is much slower, a bit darker, and contains 9 cocoons with themes connected to objects from the collection and new research. For example, planetary boundaries, economical systems, inspirations from nature and global injustice, as well as how to create good times and how it is living with things that I will get back to. The theme outside the cocoons are connected by the idea that Earth is a living creature. Here we display the idea that nature might have rights in its own, inspired by the declaration of Mother Earth that was first expressed at the World People's Conference on Climate Change in Cochabamba in Bolivia, and also proposed to United Nations to adopt as a declaration. Before talking about the collaboration with Reheritage, I'd like to mention some other research partners that we have been working with. MISTRA Sustainable Consumption from Niche to Mainstream is a 4-year program with the aim to stimulate a transition to sustainable consumption in Sweden. The program is led by KTH, Chalmers and the University of Lund in collaboration with other academic partners, companies, authorities and organizations. We also collaborated with an international research team in environmental psychology on the topic of co-benefits that investigated how people with no interest in climate change still are willing to contribute to environmental friendly behavior motivated by individual or societal benefits. We explored how feelings relate to consumption and threats like mass extinction or climate change. Here we had help from a researcher in psychology, Maria Ojala, that does her research on children's feeling and on coping with climate change. But today I focus on the collaboration with Anna Bohlin and Staffan Appelgren, the researchers within the Reheritage project. This was a very interesting and relevant collaboration connected to a theme that we wanted to include and develop in the exhibition: the relationship we have to the things that surrounds us. Their research is also very connected to our core mission as a museum on caring for and making the collected objects available. We take care of them, we keep them for coming generations to research and explore, even though we have no idea what they might mean to people in the future. The key word in the workshops that we carried out with Anna and Staffan was relation to things and objects with a history, and how these relations are affected by the efforts and experiences that we connect to them. Thanks to the funding from Seedbox, we could add and develop this theme, living with things, in one of the biggest cocoons in the exhibition. We produced 3 interactions where the visitors can think about their relation to objects that they have kept for a long time. The first part consists of 12 cups and mugs, once desired by its owner, now forgotten and ignored, and often placed at the bottom of the shelf. The theme here is love that has cooled down. The second part is a kind of citizen science, where the visitors are invited to answer a couple of questions on their relation to things that will contribute to the research project. A touchscreen with the interaction is integrated in a big shelf with everyday objects that are kept but no longer in use. The third interaction is a short session with a therapist on things, where the visitor can describe a thing that she's thinking about getting rid of. And the therapist asks if the relation really is over or if it could continue, if it is possible to fix what is broken. We produced a short film presenting the research in the Reheritage project, reaching out to the exhibition visitor, asking them to contribute by answering the questions. We also connected to objects in our collections in a film where our conservator explains the needs of a specific object that is broken and needs to be fixed. While we developed the content, we also conducted tests on our focus groups to make the interactions relevant and meaningful. The groups were a choir of adults and also students from a gymnasium school. So within the Seedbox collaboration, we also produced content to the digital platform Human Nature School, where living with things is one of 6 themes presented. In the pop-up version of the exhibition, Staffan and Anna are also our research partners when we pop up in and around Gothenburg during 2019.
Great. Yes, so I'll just say, add a few things to what Lena said, what we learned as researchers from this collaboration, which we'd never done before. We had never worked so concretely with an exhibition, so it was very new to us. And there were 2 main things that really we brought with us from this. One was the very open-ended and experimental methods that was part of designing. Here you see the cocoon living with things, the one that basically wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the Seedbox funding, so we're very grateful for that. And how this would take shape was very unclear from the beginning, and we had a series of meetings and workshops and focus groups that Lena mentioned, where we tried and tested out ideas in a very practical way. And apart from resulting in this particular exhibition, it has also been really interesting for Staffan and myself to learn from this approach to knowledge production in a way, and that has spilled over into other offshots projects from this big heritage projects that we've had. So we've done other similar kinds of interventions and experiments out in the Gothenburg area, very much thanks to the experiences from working with the museum. And the other big theme that is important to us is that we came into contact with groups of people that we normally don't reach as academics, with children, with students, with old people, people with different types of skills and capabilities and so on. And I'll just very briefly talk about 2 of these things that where we ringed objects in second-hand shops, ring marking them. So we worked with a design student who, Ingrid Furuta, who designed these tags that encouraged the owner to submit information about what they did with their objects. And we tied these to about 200 objects in second-hand shops in Gothenburg and Stockholm. And then people sent in their stories. And this is just to show that this was something that raised a lot of attention, and people liked the idea very much, so much so that it actually got into the first page of the Swedish daily
Dagens Nyheter. Just to brag, isn't it?
We were surprised. Anyway, but yeah, there was a lot of attention, especially on the actual tagging. Fewer people than we expected actually sent the stories in, but the ones that we did get were really fascinating. And then in terms of the pop-up bicycle that you saw a picture of here as well, we've been out once already with, oh yeah, I have a picture, I forget. So here you see the pop-up bicycle that is all made from recycled materials. And here you can, people can come and cycle and charge their mobile phone and so on. So the various activities connected to the exhibition theme. And here we also do different types of outreach experiments, trying out new ideas. For example, handing out a sheet of stickers where each sticker has words such as a treasure, a memory, a dear old friend, and so on. And then we talk to strangers and we ask if they want to take this home and put these stickers on things that they have in their attics or basement. And this is basically to trigger conversation about raising the possibility of recharging the relationship that people have with their objects, the way that they view their objects. And we also find that this is a kind of important counterpart to what I believe also was talking about this morning, which is the really huge pressure and kind of trend in society to downsize, to minimize, to get rid of things, which of course can be good in so many ways, but it also tends to lead to people to feel a lot of shame and stigma regarding the stuff that is kind of known as, you know, rubbish or bråte in Swedish. So we want to just see if you can change that relationship a bit to those objects. So those are just examples of the kind of very open-ended and playful engagement that has come out of this project, which has been really exciting for the two of us. So,
yes.
Yeah.
So how are we taking this further? Well, having focused extensively on things in circulation in our research project and in collaboration with the Museum of World Culture, we have come to realize that there are some problems with this. Firstly, second-hand and reuse is good, but circulation also accelerates consumption often. More is being turned over and quicker. And secondly, circulation, and in particular in terms of circular economy, tends to direct things into recycling. Recycling loops, which is better than incineration of waste, of course, but material recovery reduces things. Not least from a post-humanist perspective, there are many layers of things. Material, obvious, but also social, cultural, historical, that are also important to safeguard and salvage. Thirdly, living life in material loops encourage us as consumers to live in fleeting relationships with things. By recycling stuff, buying secondhand, and donating to charities, we learn to disassociate from things. Things continue to be causal background props into the fitting lives of humans. So rather than having loops that reduces and downcycle things, we should aim for infrastructures that preserve and enhance the many values embodied in used and aging things. And this is where society at large have something to learn from museums and heritage institutions. But to take this one step further, we might want to rethink circularity as a trope for future life. Maybe it's time to refocus on staying still and remaining in the multitude of socio-material relationships we are already and unavoidably embedded in. Again, this is inspired by Donna Haraway's book, Staying with the Trouble. So, with a future project, we hope to go on with this. And the current project that we've had in collaboration with the Museum of World Culture, Living with Things, has thus been an important seed in formulating the new project, Staying with Things. Studying staying things. So you have that word there. Okay. Studying staying things and what it means to stay with things in lasting relationships. Approaching things as companions, co-inhabiting this shared world. This is likely to be, as Haraway notes, messy, troublesome, and inconvenient, but it also might be the path to a planetary rehabilitation that humans owe other species and other fellow inhabitants.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.